And if you want to learn Adobe Premiere Pro from the very beginning, you have clicked on the right video. My goal is to be able to get you up to speed in less than 3 hours, which I know is a tall order, but I've done it before and we will do it right now. And don't worry, I'm not just leaving you stranded. I am also providing you the assets that I'm working with. So in the description, you can actually download all of the same files that I'm using and you can follow along with me. Not only that, but I have written an entire booklet of every single hotkey, cheat sheet, everything you need to know, terminology, it's all in there and you can download that for free as well. We're gonna edit 2 videos. One of them is this video about how to make a craft project, about art that lights up from the back. It's just a few clips, there's music and some text. And the second video is an exploration of what is in my tool bag when I go to set, because I am a working director and cinematographer in Los Angeles. The second one is much more complicated. There's 3 cameras, separate audio that we have to sync, and graphics that we have to create, and a lot of other things that we're gonna learn. But I promise it's actually not that hard. One thing that I want to get ahead of before we even start is how to navigate the timeline. So this is the timeline. I navigate it by moving this play indicator from left to right. And as I move it, the image above changes. So it shows me what I'm playing through, right? And time goes in a linear fashion. So this is the beginning of the video and this is the end of the video. I can navigate the timeline by zooming in and out by using this bar here and pushing these 2 points closer or farther left to right. And to play and pause, I can go over here and I can press the play button and then it turns into a pause button, or I can simply just press the space bar on my keyboard. Okay, now let's rewind and go to the beginning. This is how I organize all of my files. It's by the date underscore what it is. And then when you go into it, you can see all of the different folders here. And the folders are the same no matter what I'm looking at, no matter what project I'm doing. I think that that is super, super important to maintain that same file structure. And the way that I maintain it is I have this little demo folder here. So it has all of my subfolders. So every time I make a new project, all I do is I duplicate this demo, copy paste, and then I rename the copy. So if I renamed it for today, for example, I would say 2023-06-10 underscore demo for tutorial. There we go. And then I have all of these folders here. What you are going to be receiving is the footage folder and the audio folder. You won't get any of these other folders because they're empty. You need to make them yourself. But the footage folder is going to have all of these clips in there. And let's just take a look at them for a sec. So some of these clips are going to be called LUA. So that is the light up art project that we're going to be doing. Then we have the name of the camera. So we have camera A, camera B, and then the number of the take that we are on, or the number of the clip that it is. So the clips go in order 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll also see the what's in my bag project. And it's the same thing. We have A, B, and C. For right now, for the first project that we're doing, I don't want you to pay attention at all to the what's in my bag clips, okay? We're only working with the LUA clips first. We also have the audio folder, which has 4 audio files here. You don't have to worry about them yet, okay? That is for later. So don't worry, I'm just showing you where they are. Let's open Premiere Pro. Okay, so this is what Premiere looks like when you first open it, and right here you'll notice I have a bunch of stuff. Don't worry about any of that. Those are previous projects that I've edited and they show up here for ease of use. Yours will probably be empty. What you really want to pay attention to are here we have new project and open project. These are going to be the 2 buttons that you're going to be working with. And of course, because we've never made a project before, we're not opening one. So we're going to go to new project, select that. And now you are in the import workspace. You can see it's actually kind of showing the clips from the latest project that you worked on or edited. It's not showing the clips from the project that you're about to be working on or about to be editing. So go ahead and go to your computer wherever you save those files and find those, which for me is on the hard drive Valentina 14. Go over here to tutorial, footage. And now I have all of my footage loading into here. I can also go ahead and start creating the project up here. So I'm gonna have to find where the project location is first, meaning when we are editing, we create a file, and that file is our project file, our Premiere Pro project. That is what we save and then what we open up again when we want to access the project again. Luckily, when I create my folders on my computer, I actually create a folder that's called Premiere, and that's where my Premiere project lives. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that over here. Choose location, Premiere. So I'm going to select that folder, and I'm going to choose a project name. For the project name, I'm going to say Light Up Art. Now we have a bunch of import settings here, which are good for if you are trying to just do something really, really quick. For me, I like to do everything bespoke. I like to do everything from scratch. Now, what do I mean? Well, let's say that I do have new bin and new sequence selected, and I go ahead and I select the clips. I can either select them one by one, or I can select one of them, press Shift, select the last one, and selects everything in between. I can keep going, select all the LUA clips, right? All the clips that say Lua, Light Up Art, and ignore all of the other ones. So I can go ahead and do that, and you can see as I selected them, they actually show up down here in the order that I selected them. If I click create, let's see what happens. It has created a sequence with all of our clips. It's put them into that sequence in order. It's also created a bin with all of our clips in the bin. But I feel like this is maybe a little too confusing. So here's what would have happened if I had not selected create new sequence or create new bin. I'm just going to delete everything in here. When you open up Premiere Pro for the first time, this is what it's actually going to look like. And you basically have 4 main windows that you're working with. You have your project window, your source window, your program window, and your timeline window, or that's where your sequences are. Now, your project window, this is where you keep all your media, right? So this is like your Finder or your File Explorer. This is where you organize and keep things. Now your source window right here, that is where you preview your media. So before putting it into the project, you can pull it up there and kind of have a preview of what it's going to look like or what portion of it you need to grab. You also have your timeline over here, which is where your project will be built. So this is where your clips will be in order, and you'll be able to view your timeline in your program window. So it actually makes a lot of sense. You can view your clips, your individual media clips in your source window, and you can view your timeline, which is your project once the clips are put together, in your program window. Couple more things to take a look at. Here you have your tool bar. This is how you switch from one tool to the other. So you can either switch by clicking on it like this, pretty easy. Or if you hover over it, it'll actually show you what the shortcut is and what the tool does. So it says selection tool V. This one says track select forward tool A. So if I just press A on my keyboard, it'll change to that. If I press V on my keyboard, it'll change to that. The tool at the top, the selection tool, is the one you're going to be using most often. So I would say definitely remember V as a shortcut because you're going to be using it quite a lot. And lastly, what's going to pop up here is your decibel scale. So this is going to tell you how loud your video is. And oftentimes, I don't know about you, I don't like to rely on my ears to tell me how loud things are. I look at the decibel scale and I make sure that my video is hitting around over here, -12 decibels. Between -12 and -6, this is like the sweet spot right here for a video to be sounding good. If it goes over here, that means it's clipping, it's too loud. If it's hitting over here at like -45, it's too quiet. So those are the basic windows within Premiere Pro, but sometimes they might get a little funky, right? You might accidentally touch something and mess it up, because these windows can actually go anywhere, in any way, in any order, and be rearranged. This is super, super helpful for if you have more than one monitor or you have a particular way of working. But the problem is they can get all jumbled up and you can get confused. You're like, oh no, where was that thing? And you don't know how to get back to the place where you were at. So just go to Window, Workspaces, and reset to saved layout. You can see all of the different types of windows are up here. So there's more than just 4. There's a lot that can pop up, but the 4 basic ones are over here in the editing layout. So just go to reset to saved layout and it'll go back to the way it was before, so you don't get confused. So right now we are in the edit tab, but we were in the import tab before. So if we wanted to go back to the import tab, we just have to go to import and everything is still here, right? There's also the export tab, which is for when you actually have made your video and you want to now glue it all together and put it as one file on your computer. You go to the export tab to do that. Soon to come. I already showed you how to put clips in using import mode, but for me personally, I like to put them in within the edit tab by going over here and double clicking. So you can double click anywhere in the project window, double click, and it'll pull up your computer, your file explorer. So now you can go into that folder with footage and you can select all the LUA clips. Again, I'm selecting the first one, I'm holding down Shift, selecting the last one, and they all pop up, and I can go open. And here they all are. Right now, I am in list view. You can see down here, list view. And list view is super helpful because list view tells you things about your video that you might need to know, like the frame rate, the duration, etc. There's even more over here on the right side that you may not see unless you go on this little scroll bar down here. But you might want to see the thumbnails too. So if you want to see the thumbnails, you can go over here to icon view instead. And now it populates with all of the thumbnails from the video. But you can see that they're in a weird order. If you want to order them by the way that you shot them, presumably they're all numerical. So go down here to this menu and you can sort the icons by name. So now they're all in a row. Another thing you can do if you want to make this window bigger and see more of them is you can just hover between windows and increase the size. You can also go down here and increase the size of the thumbnails themselves. If you want to preview what's within a thumbnail, all you have to do is hover over it, right to left. This is called hover scrubbing. And you can scrub through the clip very quickly to kind of get an idea of what's inside there. If we go back to list view, let's arrange this a little bit. First, let's see all of the details about each clip on the screen at the same time. So if I press the tilde key, which is on the top left of your keyboard, it's that squiggly line. I select this window, I press the tilde key, and it goes full screen. So I can see a little bit more information across my entire screen. And what I want to do, what I want to know, of course, the frame rate I think is very important because it actually switches. You can see here, some clips are 23.976, some clips are 59.94. So it's helpful to know which clips are which. I also would like the video info. That is also very useful to me. So I'll literally just take the video info column and drag it over. And maybe the video duration as well. So now the first 3 columns are frame rate, video info, and video duration. And I'll go ahead and press tilde again to minimize that. Frame rate is essentially how many photos per second does the video display? Here's an example. So let's go to the first one over here. And you can see here that I double clicked on this file and it popped up in the source window. So now I can have a little preview of what is in this file. You can also see over here on the right, this is the length of the entire clip. So the clip is 1 minute and 23 seconds. But right now I am at 0000. If I click the right arrow on my keyboard and I just nudge the playhead, which is this blue line right here, this little blue tick, it's called a playhead or a current time indicator if you're being correct. So if I on my keyboard just go to the right, it'll go forward 1 frame. And if I do that 24 times, it should get me 1 second of video. So I'll do that right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. 1 second. So basically in this video, it's displaying 24 frames during 1 second, but you can see later here, we have some 60 frame per second clips. So if I pull one of those up and I do it 24 times, it will not get to 1 second. Let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 60, right? So it takes 60 photos to get to 1 second of footage. All of these that are 59.94, by the way, let's just say 60, right? To make it easy, 60 frames per second. All of them are B-roll clips, meaning they are additional footage. They are not part of the primary bulk of the video. You can see they're clips of the art on the wall. So let's give them a color. Let's make them a different color so that later we can differentiate them a little bit. So I'm going to select the first one, shift, select the last one, that selects all of them. I could either do that or I can draw a box around them too by just holding down my mouse and drawing a box. And over here where the colors are, I can right click, go to label, and give it a label like, I don't know, let's do magenta. Okay, so now we know all the magenta clips are 59.94. Now let's go to all of the clips labeled A over here. So that's A camera. And let's also change that label color. Let's do mango. Okay, great. So now we have 3 different colors. We have A, we have B, and then we have our also A cam, but these are our 60 frames per second clips. When I go into icon view, I won't be able to see the colors, but I will be actually able to see the icons. So that is also super helpful to me. As you can see, all the clips are actually in one giant void right now. There's no organization to them besides that we've given them some colors. So let's start making folders and start organizing our footage over here. And folders in Premiere Pro are called bins. So don't get that confused. It's just bins. We can go down here to new bin icon, and there's a bin. Let's call it O1 footage. Now, why did I put an O1 in there? Well, because sometimes you have more than one bin, right? We'll do another bin called O2 audio. And we'll do another bin called O3 sequences. And maybe a fourth one, O4 graphics. O5 music. And if I only wrote the names of these bins and I didn't put numbers in front of them, when I arranged them alphabetically, they would be all willy-nilly, right? Audio would be first. But because I did it this way, this kind of lets me control the order of things. So I'll go ahead and in this footage bin, I'll go ahead and select all the actual footage and I'll put it into the footage bin. To create a new sequence, I could go up here to File, New, Sequence. I could also do the shortcut Control N, Or I can go here to the new item button, new item sequence. So I'll go over here to new sequence, but first I'll actually select the sequence bin. That way the new sequence just goes into my sequence bin. New sequence. And I'll get this box. Now, don't worry, there's all of these wonderful presets here, so you don't really have to think too hard about what the sequence setting should be. My recommendation, just go to the very first one, ARRI, which is a camera manufacturer, here 1080p, and choose the very, very first one. This is going to be your standard size and look for a YouTube video. And then for the sequence name, you guessed it, I'm going to do 01 as the leader because then everything is alphabetized to my liking. I'm going to say 01 and string out. Now, a string out is all of your clips arranged in order, essentially. And it helps you kind of see everything and put it on a timeline before you go ahead and start playing with everything. So you can see that it added a sequence here. You can see it's also blank. And I can tell it's blank because there's nothing in the program monitor. So let's put some stuff in there. Let's go into our footage bin, double click, and let's put up our ACAM footage. So I can either just drag it over one by one like this, or I'm going to undo by pressing Command Z, Command Z. I can select the first one, Shift, select the last one, and put it in there. So far, I'm only going to do my ACAM footage. And here we go, it's in there. If I want to see the actual thumbnails of what I'm looking at in the actual sequence, all I have to do is hover my mouse between V1 and V2. This stands for video. And of course the A stands for audio, right? So just hover between V1 and V2. And there you go. The thumbnails appear. But we have a problem. What is the problem? Well, look, the actual file, you can see the table, the edge of the table, and a little beyond it. But here it's all zoomed in. What is happening? Well, let's go to the video info to see. Here in video info, it's going to tell us the dimensions of each of our clips. And the dimensions are 4K. So 3840 by 2160. What does that mean? Well, it literally means the amount of pixels across the top of the video and along the side of the video. So every piece of video footage, in fact, every photo or anything that is made out of dots of color called pixels has dimensions. And so this just tells us the dimensions. So there's 3840 by 2160, which means 3840 across the top and 2160 across the side. But what about this sequence? Well, if we go to sequence settings, we can actually see what the frame size of the sequence is. And it's 1920 by 1080. So the sequence is a lot smaller than the clip that we put into it. How much smaller? Well, it's 4 times smaller. So if you think about it in terms of surface area, 4 1080 windows can fit into one 4K window. So if we're going to make sure that this is the same size as our sequence, we got to change the size. We got to scale it down a little bit. Let's go into Effect Controls, which is a tab up here. Now, don't worry, the source is still up there. So let's go to Effect Controls. Let's select our clip here. And over here in the very first batch of controls are the motion controls. And you can see here at scale, it says 100. If we hover over that number 100 and we drag it to the right, it scales in. If we drag it to the left, it scales down. Now, instead of trying to guess, okay, how much do I need for it to scale properly? We can just go right click, set to frame size, and it knows for us. We also could have guessed because it's exactly 50, right? We could do that to every single one of these. We can type in 50, or we could right click and go set to frame size, But we can also just select all of them, right click and do set to frame size. And now they're all properly scaled. But are they? Because you can still see the edges of the table here, right? We don't want each clip to be exactly the same size as the frame because there's all this extra over here that's ugly we want to get rid of. We only want to see the tabletop. So what are we going to do? Well, we'll choose any of them. It doesn't matter which because the camera doesn't move the entire time, right? So choose whichever and then use that scale slider to scale it up so that we only see the top of the table. Perfect. Now what we can do is we can copy paste this motion control across all of them. So we'll select the word motion over here. We'll go Command C. Then we'll select all of them, Command V. So now they are all resized. Let's say that we want to make sure that the content that we have here is in the middle of our frame. Right now, it's kind of to the bottom right. We can go over here to position. So we can use these sliders for the X and Y coordinates. We can reposition this. Okay, great. But it is a little bit skewed. It's kind of skewing to the left a little bit. So we can go over here to rotation, rotate it ever so slightly, maybe 2 degrees. That looks perfect. Okay, cool. So now we've changed the position, we've changed the scale, and we've changed the rotation. So let's add those numbers to the other 3 clips by selecting the word motion, Command C for copy, select the other ones, Command V for paste, and now that same thing has been applied to all of them. Now you notice that when we dragged these 4 clips over here, they came with audio, right? And if you select each of these clips, what happens is that the audio gets selected too. And in this video, we don't want any audio. So how do we make sure that we get rid of the audio? Well, there's a bunch of ways to do this. The first way to do it is we can simply mute this track by pressing M. So if we mute this track, we won't be able to hear it. We can also unlink the audio. Right now, you can see this little V in brackets. That means that the video and the audio are linked. But if we right click and go to unlink, now they're separate and they are not linked. You can do that to all of them, by the way, by drawing a box, selecting them. You can also select all of them by going Command A, select all. Right click, unlink. So now they're all unlinked. You can also do it with a shortcut. So Command L will unlink them for you. Instead of right clicking and going to unlink, you can also hold down Option or Alt and draw a box and select only the audio and delete it. Another way to unlink without physically going to unlink is just deselect link selection over here. And then nothing that's linked will be linked. But it'll still be there so that it can be linked again. But you can deselect link selection and delete. And then select that again. So lots of different ways to get rid of the audio. The point is that now we just have the video clips to work with and not the audio. You can see here that the video right now is 20 minutes long because we put all our clips, but we haven't cut any of them yet. So the actual length of the footage is 20 minutes long. And where the current time indicator is written right here. So if we move the time indicator across, these numbers change. We can also move the time indicator over here in the program monitor. So if we move this left to right, you can see the line at the bottom also moves. Now, if your computer is struggling with these files, you can also change your resolution that you're playing this back at. So over here, this is right now playing at 1/4 resolution. This doesn't mean that in the end your video will look like it's at 1/4 resolution. This is just for you when you're editing to be able to lighten the load on your computer a little bit. So if you're using those 4K files, maybe you're on a really old laptop, I would highly recommend viewing it at a quarter resolution. I'm going to move it actually back up to full so that you can see it a little bit better. Let's say that we don't actually want to disturb this string out at all. We don't want to do any cuts right here. Maybe we want to preserve this because, I don't know, it has some data in it. We changed some motion control. So maybe we want to preserve this. Let's duplicate the sequence and work on the duplicate instead. This is a way to kind of save your work as you go and edit non-destructively. So the first thing I'm going to do, I know that this tab, this string out, this sequence, I know where it is, right? I know it's over here in the project in the bin called sequences, but let's say I didn't know that. Let's say I had like a million sequences. I didn't know where to find it. So I would just right click and go to reveal sequence in project. It would show me exactly where that sequence is. Now I want to duplicate it. So I right click, go to duplicate. So now I have a second one. Let's name it O2 selects. Double click and it opens it up right here, the duplicate. So both of these are exactly the same, but I'm going to work on the second one. So the whole point of this first shot is that I want all of these items to pop into the shot. But at the beginning, they're actually all laid out. So what I want to do is kind of reverse the footage. Start with the end and end with the beginning. And it's pretty easy to reverse it. You guessed it. Right click. So right click, speed duration, and reverse speed. Press OK. So now the beginning's at the end and the end's at the beginning. And how do I know that my speed's been reversed? Well, you could see over here in brackets, it says negative 100%. That's the speed. The speed is exactly reversed. So I'm going to need to go ahead and place a cut right here, right where my hands have just left the frame and it's only the painting. How do I do that? Well, a lot of people would go over here to the razor tool, select it, place a cut, then go back over to the selection tool, take this, delete it by pressing delete on your keyboard, and then take this clip and then move it forward, right? And they would repeat the process. So I need to cut it right before my hands come in again. So they would go to the razor tool, place a cut, go over here to when my hands come out, place a cut, go to the selection tool, delete, and then move this over. That takes so long. I'm going to show you a few other options. So let's go to where we have to place a cut again. So right before the paper shows up. Let's zoom in a little bit and let's cut it right where the playhead is. Let's use the playhead as our ninja sword. As long as the clip is selected, you can go Command K and insert that cut. Now let's go to where the hand is out again, do Command K. So now we have to get rid of this, right? So we could do delete, or we can right click and go to ripple delete. What happened? Well, what happened was we got rid of this middle clip and then everything after it rippled forward. Check it out again. Let me select that, right click, ripple delete, it rippled. Isn't that cool? Okay, let's do that again. So right before the hand comes in, right there. So Command K, the hand comes in. All right, right here is where we want to ripple delete it again, right? So we'll do Command K. We want to get rid of this little sliver. So instead of choosing ripple delete from a menu, you can go to Control Delete on a PC or Option Delete on a Mac. Ta-da! Awesome, let's do that again. So we'll find right before the hand comes in, Command K, right after the hand goes out, Command K, and then Control Delete. Now, what if I told you that there's an even easier way to do this? So again, let's find where our cut point is right before the scissors come on, Command K. now we want everything to happen at once, right? We want the cut to happen at the playhead. Then we want this new chunk that develops to delete itself out of existence. And we want everything after the cut to ripple forward. All we have to do is use one shortcut, and that's the letter Q. That's it. So you can just keep going over here, right before the hand comes in, Command K, right after the hand, Q, and build out this whole beginning number. Now the question is, what if it was the other way around? What if you had a cut that's already there in the future? You wanted to create a new cut right before it, and you wanted to ripple everything from this cut to this cut. What would you do? Well, the shortcut is W. So let's say I want to place a cut here and ripple from here to here, just get rid of this little section. All I would do is press W, bam. So you can see now the way it plays out, all of the objects appear on screen. Okay, I spent another minute going through this and I finished up all the cuts. I also reframed some of these. You can see I went all the way up to 100% in scale. I wouldn't ever really try to go more than that because at that point you're getting some pixelation. Like you can start seeing the individual pixels here. And you can see what I ended up with is large swaths of boring footage. This is still a 6.5 minute video and I really would like to keep it around a minute, maybe. So what I want to do is speed some of these longer clips up. Now, just like before where we actually reversed the first clip, we can just change the speed on this. Right click, go to speed duration and put a new speed or a new duration. So if I want this to be twice as fast, for example, I can do 200%. And now it's twice as fast. And I can get rid of this gap right here by right clicking in the middle and going to ripple delete. So now if I play it through, it's going still very slowly. So I could always right click, go to speed duration, change it to 400% or something like that. Or I can rate stretch it. So the rate stretch tool, it's hidden in the toolbar. It's right here. So if you don't see it, like for example, if the ripple edit tool is on or something, all you have to do is click and hold and change it to the rate stretch tool. But you can also see that the shortcut is R. So if I ever want to enable the rate stretch tool, I can just go to R and that basically changes the speed of whatever the clip is. So I can go over here to the end of it and drag it forward and that will stretch the speed. So now it'll play through a lot faster. And you can see here in the big parentheses, 529%. That's how fast it is. If I rate stretch it even farther, 1500%. And you can see my computer is kind of like stalling. Sometimes that happens when you put too many effects on something or when you have like really heavy footage to play with. And there's a way to play it back super, super smooth. The way to do that is to render that area or that clip. Right here you can see above the timeline, you've probably noticed, there's a yellow line. And when there is no footage, there is no line. Now this line, it can be green, it could be yellow, or it could be red. Yellow generally means, hey, watch out, it might not play through for you very smoothly. You might have to render it. So I like to think of rendering as like preheating the oven, right? If you put something into the oven right when it's cold, it's going to take a really long time to cook because it has to be preheated first. So let's preheat the oven here. Let's render this little section. Now we could just select this, go over here to sequence and render the selection, but I also want to teach you about in and out points. So let's actually render in to out. We haven't set in and out points yet though, so let's set those. So here on the timeline, we'll move our playhead to the beginning of the clip. And how can we make sure that it's the beginning of that clip? Well, we can use our up and down arrows on the keyboard, and that'll just snap us to the next cut point. So we'll go to the beginning, we'll press I on our keyboard, I. That's in. And you can see this little gray bar appears and it shows us that this is our in point. Now we'll press down on our keyboard, that goes to the end of the clip where the cut is, and we'll press O on our keyboard. That's the out point. This is the section that we want to render. So we'll go to sequence, render into out. This is the rendering window. And it tells you how much time is left in the render and how many frames we are rendering. Once it's done, you can see this section turns green and you can play it through, and it should play through without stuttering, without any problems. And if we want to clear those in and out points, we just have to click in this area, right click, clear in and out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rate stretch a lot of these sections, because me cutting around this artwork, it's a snooze fest, right? So I'm going to rate stretch that, just rate stretch a lot of them with no abandon, without abandon. Yeah, just rate stretch. Yeah. So now we have all of these little chunks here with a lot of gaps in between. So I can select in the middle of the gaps, right click and go to ripple delete, ripple delete, ripple delete. But imagine doing that for like an hour-long video. That can get pretty annoying. So I'm gonna undo, Command Z, Command Z. So there is actually a way to close all the gaps, but the shortcut isn't a default. So you actually have to create the shortcut yourself, and I'll show you how to do that. You can go to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts. This is a super great menu for if you ever forget anything at all, you can always look it up or create your own. If you want to create a shortcut, just type in whatever you want to create the shortcut for. So for me, it's close gap right there. It pulls up and you can see there is no shortcut for it. So I just click over here to where it says shortcut and I'll put my keystrokes in. So for me, it's going to be Control Alt G. That's going to be my close gap shortcut. I'm going to press OK. So then when I go to my timeline, I do Control Alt G and it closes all the gaps. Now, if I wanted to render this entire thing, yes, I could go to the beginning over here by either dragging my playhead or clicking this go to end button. And then I could go to out, I could press O. So I set my in and out points and then go to sequence, render in and out. Or even if I don't have in and out points, sequence, render in and out will still render the entire sequence. So by default, sequence, render in and out just renders everything, even if you don't put in and out points there. Before we go any further, I'm going to make a version. I like to make a version every time I render. So right click, reveal sequence in project. There's that sequence. I'm going to right click, duplicate, and rename my new sequence. 03 first cut, double click. So now I'm on the first cut sequence and I'm leaving all the other ones alone. In a few of these clips, it's actually hard to tell what's going on because it's a top view, right? So you can't really tell that I'm sliding this into a frame. I have a better angle. So instead of using this one, let's find something else to use. So I'm gonna go back into my footage folder, double click, go to icon view so that I can see all of the thumbnails over here, and I'm gonna go to my B camera, double click, open that up, and I'm gonna actually find the section of the front view camera where I am doing this exact motion. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is actually better viewed from the side. So let me put this clip in. But the problem is, if I go ahead and do the thing that I did before, where I just select this thumbnail and I go ahead and I drag it in, oh my gosh, look what happens. Not only is it a super long clip because I didn't designate which portion of the clip I'm going to be bringing in, but it just covered everything. So that's not good. I'm going to undo that. So instead of doing that, let's first figure out where to put this in my timeline. I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to slip it in right there. So I'm going to put my time indicator there. And remember, I can always click on the up and down arrows to kind of snap my playhead to that spot. And now I need to designate which portion of this clip I am putting right there. So you guessed it, in and out points. I'm going to press I, and that's going to create that in point, right? Then I'm going to take the current time indicator to the end right there where the artwork is inside of the frame. I'm going to press O. Voila. Now I can go ahead and drag it, and it doesn't drag the entire thing. I can put it on the second track, and I think this is what people do all the time, right? They just drag it and they put it on the second track, meaning you have multiple video tracks. So the one that's on top is the one that's going to show, right? And we can always right click, set to frame size, or we can do the shortcut, Shift Command F. But then what people usually do is then they'll be like, okay, but I got to put it there. So I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to grab all this. I'm going to move that aside, and then I'm going to put it in, and then I'm going to bring this up. Okay. Well, no, we're not doing that. There's an easier way to do this. Trust me. So undo, undo, undo. First of all, if you were going to do that, the faster and easier way to select everything after your mouse is to change your mouse to a track select forward tool, which is A. You can see it's over here, A, or you can just press A, which means that it automatically selects everything that is after where your mouse is. Right? So if I were to do it that way, I would select A, then I'd go back V on my keyboard for the selection tool, and I'd press Shift to also select this one, move it aside, move this down, move this down. But there's an even easier way to do this. So undo, 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 undo. Again, I'm going to place my cursor by going up and down on the keyboard right where I want to sort of insert that clip. And I'm going to go into the insert button that's right here. So insert. Ta-da! Not only did it insert that clip, but it also rippled all of the other clips back. Watch that again. Insert. Now there's another one right here. It's called overwrite. So if I wanted to do overwrite, this is what would happen if I do that. It overrides on top. It doesn't ripple everything, right? So insert inserts it, and override goes on top of everything. Now, if I wanted to put this little section of the clip onto this second layer without having to also drag the audio with it, what I could do is drag video only. That's where I just go into this icon right here, I hold it, and I drag it over. Another way to do it simply is to lock this entire track. So watch what happens when I lock the track. So I'll lock the track and I'll go insert. So what happened? The audio came through, but the video did not. Well, that's because source patching is enabled on the first video layer, not any other ones. So this highlight, this blue highlight behind the V1 track, if I move it up to the V2 track and then I do the insert, bam, it goes on the second layer. But what happens when you unlock it and do insert? Everything still ripples. So if you unlock it, you would have to do overwrite for that to be up there. Let's just say it is on the second track over here, and I want to put it in here, in between here. Now, what do I do? Well, I can go to my A tool, select everything, V, then shift select that, move it over, then drop it down. I can also just go Alt, hold down Alt, and then move down on the arrow key for that to drop down. Another way that I could ripple this and insert it into that first video layer is I can just hold it, and while dragging, hold down Command, and bam, it's in there. So want to make sure that that's the right size, right click, set to frame size, or I can just use the shortcut Shift Command F. And then I want to delete this one because I no longer need it. I have the front view, which is better. So use that shortcut from earlier, Command Delete. There we go. And maybe I also want to do this moment from the front, but then starting here, I want to do it from the side. So I'll go Q, and that'll insert a cut, and then cut everything to the previous cut, right? So I'll do Q here, and I'll go ahead and find that moment where both of them are being displayed, I and O. Again, I can press the insert or overwrite, or I can use the shortcuts, which are the comma or the period. So I'll do the comma to insert. There we go. Shift Command F to frame it properly, and bam. It's almost like one follows the other. Now remember our 60 frame per second clips from earlier? Remember, if we go into list view, we see them here. We labeled them this pink color. Well, if we open any of them up, what happens? What does it look like? Well, it just looks like I'm mounting them to the wall in real time. And if I wanted to put a clip of that at the end here, I could do the same thing where I can do I and then O over here, and then do comma, and it jumps in. Right click, set to frame size, perfect. But because they were recorded at 60 frames per second, I can also rate stretch them and they'll turn into slow motion. So I can go R on my keyboard for rate stretch and stretch it out. And what happens is it plays back in nice slow motion, but only to a point, right? If I stretch it far out, it'll jitter, right? It'll be really, really jittery. I'll do even more intense. So you can see it's like, right? So 60 frames per second can only stretch so far until you get that really jittery looking motion. So how do you make sure that you have the perfect percentage, right? How do you know if you're recording things at different frame rates that you get the right frame rate, that you get the right ratio? Well, for me, I wouldn't use rate stretch on these clips. Instead, I would conform these clips to the correct frame rate before I start placing them in my timeline. So let's delete this and let's go to all the clips that are 59.94, right? I'll select all of them, select the first one, shift, select the last one, that selects all of them. Then I'll go ahead and right click, go to modify, interpret footage, and here I can put in my new frame rate. So I can assume a new frame rate. And what am I going to assume? Well, I'm going to assume the frame rate of all the other clips, 23.976. So I'll assume this frame rate, 23.976. I'll press OK. And now when I click on any of these clips, they play back in slow motion already. So I'm going to have to set a new in out point, starting here, in and out. And then I can go ahead and drop it in there. I also want to put one at the beginning, right? Because we want to do like, what are we making at the beginning? So I'll go jump my playhead to the beginning over here by using this button, or I could have like physically moved it over there as well. And I'll choose a nice looking shot, maybe right when the lights turn off, and bam. So I'll go in with I, out with O, right there, and I'll pop it in at the very beginning. And then maybe another close-up. I and O. We'll pop it in right there. Let's move on to the next step. Of course, I'm going to duplicate the sequence and make a new one. So right-click, reveal sequence in project, right-click, duplicate, 04. I'm going to call it with music and double click. let's add music. Okay, so obviously you can use whatever music you want, and I usually put the music that the client requests into this music folder. But if you don't have music to use, there's music inside of Premiere Pro that you can license. So if you go over here to window, we're finally going to open up another window. Thus far, we've only been working with these four, and we're going to go ahead and open up Essential Sound. So Essential Sound panel can not only edit the audio that you are already working with, but it can help you find new audio as well. So we're going to go over here to browse and browse some audio from Adobe stock. So let's see, moods. We'd like this to be happy and inspiring. For genres, let's go pop and maybe dance. That could be fun. And for filters, let's do a pretty up-tempo song. We want it to be at least 1 minute long. And we can choose which partners we are pulling the music from. Now, it's very important to note that once you choose a song, you do have to license it by clicking on the shopping cart icon, because otherwise you're going to get dinged by, the copyright on whatever website you are trying to upload this to. But you can also download a low resolution track just to kind of play around and see if it works in your project. So I'm going to put my playhead at the beginning of my video, and I'm going to make sure that timeline sync is enabled over here. And I'm going to go through and see what kind of music I have and kind of play the clips along with my video. Let me start over here with reflective upbeat. I like it. So I'm just going to drag it into my project, into over here. This is the first track down here. I'm going to mute this for now so that we can listen to some other ones. Let's try lo-fi calm. Nope, too slow. The ambient. I also like this one, so I'll put it in. I also like this one. Let's put that one in. So you can see that all three of these tracks are different durations, but I can either mute two of them to listen to one of them. So if I mute the top two, I'll hear the bottom. Oh, that is very loud. How do I know? It's clipping at the top. See how the decibel scale is going really high up? Listen to this. Right? So if I want to turn it down, make it a little bit less loud, there's this volume line in the middle, and I'll just drag it down, maybe -6 decibels. Let's play that. Yeah, that's about the right level. So if I wanted to listen to this one, I could mute this one and unmute that one. I could do that, but also I could just solo that one. That's what the S is for, and play that back. Again, this is way too loud, so I'm gonna lower the intensity. I can either change the decibel intensity here. There's another way I could do it where I could right click and go to audio gain, and I could go -6 over here, and you can see in this way the actual waveform got lower in the track. I could also, if I wanted to turn it down lower, I could go over here to the edit tab in Essential Sound, mark it as music, and then turn the clip volume down over here as well. Okay, let me solo that one. Again, too loud. So let me do this version here. All three different versions of how to change the volume. Oh, I did the opposite, I think. Sure did. I added 6. So let's subtract 12 in order to balance it out. I think I like the last one the best. So I'll delete these two, and I'll move this up. And if I want to find where it is, I just have to right click and go to reveal in project. And here it says Adobe stock audio media. I can go ahead and put that bin inside of the music bin so that everything's more organized for me. Once I'm ready to buy it, I just click on the shopping cart icon and it says license Adobe stock music track. And I have 45 licenses, so I can go ahead and confirm. And now it's licensed to me. As I'm playing through, I want to make more edits to this. But if I'm doing that shortcut Command K, what happens is that this gets sliced through as well, right? Command K, this keeps getting sliced through. So I want to preserve the music track and make sure that it doesn't get sliced through. So I'm going to undo that and I'm going to lock the track. Once I lock it, it can't be touched, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to time all of this to the track itself. So let's see the very beginning. Let's play that through. Da 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 da. That was good. So let me rate stretch. Okay, next one. So maybe I want to start the tools here. So I'll go A for select all afterwards. And I'll extend this a little bit. And then right here where that beat drops, that's where I want the tools to start appearing, right? So one thing that's going to be very helpful to me is to place markers on the timeline so that I don't have to every single time be like, okay, where is that? Okay, shorten it. Let's play it through. Okay, where's that next one? Okay, it's here. So we got to move that here and make it shorter this way. I could just place markers and then I don't have to listen to the song anymore. So what I'm going to do is as I'm listening through to this track, I'm going to place my finger on the M key and keep pressing it every time there's a beat. M, 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 M. So now all I have to do is find where those markers are. Right there, right there, right there. And as long as my snapping is enabled, I should be able to just snap each of these to the markers. Now all of these tools appear on the beat. Watch this. And also, see what happens when I'm scrolling along? This is called scrubbing. And you start hearing that sound, that tinny sound. You can go ahead and turn that off. Over here in Preferences, Audio, you can deselect Play Audio while scrubbing. Ah, sweet silence. But when you press play or you press the space bar, okay, so you can see here, I went ahead and I cut these all up. I made it pretty good, like around 1 minute and 2 seconds. And the track is too long for me. So instead of doing something like just shortening it up and having it end abruptly like this, if that were the case, I'd maybe want to kind of make sure that the audio like dips or peters out at the end. So maybe what I could do is go to my effects window over here and type in fade, and over here under audio transitions crossfade, maybe I'll grab the exponential fade, drop it in so that it sounds like this. Still sounds pretty abrupt though, because it's not the song's natural ending. So maybe instead of doing that, what I would do is, okay, I got it. I'll place a cut here and then I'll move the back part over. But then I kind of just place the cut randomly, and this transition's probably not going to sound very nice. Let's see. No, that sounds awful. So how do I shorten it, have this natural fade, but also not have a abrupt transition? Well, I'm going to undo that. You can just remix it. It's the remix tool. It's over here, hiding behind the rate stretch tool. And when you use it and you change the length of the track, it actually uses artificial intelligence called Adobe Sensei to figure out where the most logical cuts should be. And those are indicated with these squiggly lines right here. So let's play through the squiggly lines and hear how it sounds. Very good, very natural. How about this one? Very good. Maybe I want it to be just a tad bit longer than that because I want to put a last clip at the very end. This isn't my last clip. The last clip I want is of the lights turning off, right? So let me try to make it just a tad bit longer. Let's see what it does. Aha, perfect. So it gave me that latitude, and I'm going to just find a good ending clip. Maybe this one right here. So I'll grab I and O points. Great, and I'll put it in. How does that sound? Let's see. Oh, I definitely want it to go dark on that. So I will find the point in the clip where the lights turn off, and I'll place a marker on the clip itself instead of placing a marker on the timeline by selecting the clip and going M. So that places a marker on the clip itself, and then I'll know, I think that is around here. So I'll even that out and then drag it to the end. Let's see. So now that we have the music laid out and our edit is done, let's actually start adding some text. So we'll go over here to the type tool and start typing directly on the screen. So with the type tool selected, we are going to add the word floating frames. Okay, not too bad, but the default font, it's not really doing it for me. So let's open up another window. We'll go over here to window and we'll open up essential graphics, and it'll open up in another tab here. So we still have essential sound, but now we also have essential graphics. And this is what's going to control all the graphics that we are seeing. So first, let's choose another font. Let's try Poppins. Oh, I quite like that. Maybe all caps. Adjust the kerning and leading a little bit. Adjust the position and alignment. Make the font smaller. So you can see here in Align and Transform, as I hover over any of these numbers, they change. Also, see what's happening here in the timeline itself. You can see here on track number 2, the actual text has become a layer. Now, if I want to duplicate this, I just hold down Option and drag, and then it duplicates it for me. So now I have something that I can go ahead and reposition over here. And I'm going to type in parchment paper. Now that font is quite big, so I'm going to make it smaller, maybe 60. So let's make this one 60 as well, just to keep the same size. Okay, nice. Floating frames, parchment paper. I'm going to hold down Alt or Option, drag that again over here. Selection tool over here. Let's make it left justified. This is just like if you've used Photoshop or Illustrator, you'll recognize a lot of this menu. Artwork. By the way, this is an artwork that I made in the style of Roy Lichtenstein. I could also just make this longer, right? And then just use the razor tool to cut it. That's the other way to do it. Great. And then let's do the word ingredients. So I will extend this, cut it right here, and not ingredients, let's do tools. And let's center justify it, and then center it, align it in the center, make it really big. Let's center align it again. Give it, yeah, there we go. Nice. This doesn't have to be completely white, right? I can make it slightly see-through. Remember how on the audio, this was our volume line? Well, on video, this is our opacity line. So I can drag this down and make it a little bit more transparent. Nice. And if you wanted to add some more of those fun blend modes, they're over here in effect controls, which is a window that, by the way, exists for whatever you're on. So here under effect controls, you can go ahead and under opacity, you can do something like, I don't know, overlay, for example. Turn that back on. Yeah, so maybe soft light. Maybe that's better. Something like that. Nice. And let's actually, I alt dragged that title over. Let's give this a name. So light up artwork, or light up art. And let's have it appear right as the lights go down. There. And let's give it a color, maybe a yellow. Nice. I'll start it there, and then it'll fully get the color it needs to be there. So I'll place a marker just so that I know. And then what I'll do is I'll place a keyframe on this, meaning it'll start at 0 and then it'll end up at 100 opacity. So all I have to do is hold down Alt, place a keyframe, hold down Alt, place a keyframe, and drag the first one down. And if you want to see just that without having this influence you, I can always turn off the visibility of the bottom layer just so that you can see only what the graphic is doing. That's actually what's so fun about having multiple layers, right? Because if I want to export a version of this later that has no graphics at all I have to do is toggle this off, and now you can't see any of the graphics. I can always enable the visibility, and now you can see all of the graphics. Speaking of enabling or disabling, what if I wanted to turn off some of these graphics, but not all of them, right? What if I wanted to I don't know, turn off these middle 3, for example, right? Because if I disable the visibility of the whole layer, I disable everything on that layer. So I could take these 3 and move them up and then take off the visibility of that layer. Or something else I could do is I could take these 3, right click, and deselect enable. So see how now they're grayed out? This is like a bright red and this is like a dull red. So you see this one, but you don't see these 3. I'm gonna re-enable them. I could right click, go to enable, or I could just do Shift E, and that'll enable, disable different layers. Okay, now that I've added all this text and all these directions, maybe I rethink the color or the font that I'm trying to work with. I can always change it. So if I select all of these, I can go up here and I can just change the font to whatever I want. Maybe I'm feeling something like this. Actually, I quite like that rounded vibe. I'm kind of noticing that a lot of these clips from the front are sort of muted. I might want to add some more color, maybe some more saturation to these. So you guessed it, let's open another window. Let's go to Window, Lumetri Color, and let's work on this clip in particular, this clip that I have selected right here. So we will go and maybe add some saturation. Right now it's at 100%. Let's go to 118%. And let's make it a little bit brighter as well. Okay, that looks good. In comparison to that, oh yeah, big difference. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and select the Lumetri Color effect, which is Premiere Pro's color workflow, essentially. Anytime you want to change colors or do anything with color, you go to Lumetri Color. I'm going to right click and copy, or I could just do Command C. I could go to the next clip and Command V. Okay, and then the next blue clip, right? Because we know that that's all our clips from the front, from camera B, Command V. And you can see that as I do it, this little effects marker, it changes from being yellow, which means no effects, to being green, which means it has an effect on it. But guess what? That is not really super fun to do when you have 20 minutes worth of clips and they're all mixed up like that. So instead of doing that, I'm sure happy that we color coded them at the beginning. So let me undo that. Right now, I only have the Lumetri Color on one clip, right? So I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to right click and go to Label, select Label Group. And it selects all of the ones that have Lumetri Color applied. I'm going to go Command V. But what happened? Not only did it apply it to all of them, it also applied it to the one that already has one, right? So now it has two Lumetri colors. So I'll just delete the second one, select, delete. So only one shows up. So now that color correction was applied across the board to all of the ones that are blue. Let's see about these from the top. I like them as well, but I could maybe use a little bit more contrast in this shot. So I'll again go to Lumetri Color. You can see right now in the effect controls for this particular clip, Lumetri Color isn't applied. But as soon as I make any type of change, so let me increase the contrast, maybe increase the brightness a little bit. You can see it's appeared now, right? So I can go ahead, select it, Control Copy, then go over here to the orange, right click, label, select label group. Now I can deselect the one that already has Lumetri Color on it. That way I don't have to delete the second Lumetri Color later by pressing Shift and selecting it. That deselects it. And then Command V, and now all of them have it. Now say later, maybe I wanted to get rid of the Lumetri Color on all of them. How would I do that? Would I have to go to each and every single one of them and then delete the Lumetri Color like this? Go to that one, delete the Lumetri Color? Or would I have to right click, label, select label group? Oh no, because I have multiple selected, my effect controls window doesn't show them anymore. How do I make sure that Lumetri Color is deleted from all of them? Well, if I right click and go to remove attributes, it'll ask me, oh, okay, which attributes would you like to remove? So I will make sure that only Lumetri Color is selected as the attribute that I'd like to remove from all of the clips that have been colored orange, and I'll press OK. And now they're all back to the way that they were. So if I wanted to add a new Lumetri Color, I could do that. And that way I don't have to go to each and every one and delete it each and every time. But I kind of like the way that it was, so I'm going to undo that and make sure that they all have Lumetri Color on them. Almost done. I think this last clip over here goes on for a tad too long. So what we're going to do is we're just going to shorten it, and we're also going to shorten the audio, and to make sure that both the clip and the audio don't just disappear, we might ramp both of them down a little bit. So I'll go over here into my effects, and under audio transitions, crossfade, let's grab constant power, put it in here so that it ramps down, and under video transitions, we'll go to dissolve and we'll do a cross dissolve. We'll put it on here and increase the length a little bit so it looks like this. Before we watch the whole thing and then move on to our second video, I just wanted to let you know I'm on social media, Valentina.v on Instagram, Valentina V on Twitter. So if you're enjoying this, I'd love to know that you are. So pop on over there and let me know. we will go to File, Save, make sure you save it, and then File, Close Project. Now let's go to New Project again, and we are going to find that location where we are putting all of our Premiere projects. So we're putting them in the Premiere folder, and select folder. We'll title this one What's in My Bag, and we're not going to create a new bin. We're not going to create a new sequence. We're going to do it all from scratch yet again, and we're going to click Create. Okay, here we are back at the beginning, and remember how before when we wanted to create a new bin, we went over here to New Bin and we typed in O1 footage, O2 audio, etc., etc. Well, instead of doing that, let's actually be a little smarter about it, because the folders are already arranged, right? And you know, Premiere Pro bins are the same as folders. So I'm just gonna take the folder called footage, shift and select take the photo called audio, so both of them, and I'm just gonna drag them in. And guess what? They become bins. And look in here. Here are all of the clips. Now in this folder, we still have the light up art clips. So let's get rid of those. Let's sort this by name, and all the clips that say Lua, we can get rid of them. Or we could just type Lua into here and it shows us all of the Lua clips. So let's get rid of them because we don't need them. We'll select them all and press the garbage button. Okay, so now only the What's in My Bag clips are left. We'll select all of the clips that say A on them, and watch out because some of them are also B-roll clips. You see that? They're 60 frames per second. So we'll only select the ones that are 23,976 frames per second. Right click, let's label them as, let's do mango. Then all of the ones that are B-roll, which are 60 frames per second, we'll select all of those as well, and that we will designate as B-roll. So we will label them, let's label them teal. Then we will go to the B clips. B clips we will leave this color, and then the C clips we will select them all and we will label them, let's do magenta. Okay, so we have 4 colors here, 5 if you count the audio. You don't always have to create a sequence from scratch. In fact, you can sometimes create a sequence that is from the actual footage itself, meaning you can use a clip to create a sequence that has the same dimensions and frame rate of the clip. Let's take a look at these clips. Let's press the tilde key and get some more information about them. That's the squiggly line on the top left of your keyboard. So let's move the video info column and also the video duration column so that we have frame rate, video duration, video info. Now we can see that almost all of them are 4K except for a few of them which are 1080, right? Which are HD, which means that our sequence should really be HD. That way we don't lose any data, right? We don't have a large canvas and we're trying to stretch a small clip to fit that large canvas. And also we have a bunch of 60 frames per second clips and then a bunch of 24. So we should really be building a sequence that is the size of the B camera clips. So what we can actually do, I'm going to press tilde again on my keyboard to get out of this window. We can drag this clip to the new item icon. And when we drag it, it creates a new sequence. So it creates a sequence, and that sequence has our clip in it. Isn't that cool? So the only problem is right now it's in the footage bin, right? So let's create another bin and we'll call it O3 sequences. And you can see the sequence actually has the little logo of sequence on it. You can take that sequence and we will place it into the sequences bin. Just drag it in there. Yeah. So now there's a sequence and it's called WIMB01. We can rename it by going right click, rename, or just simply clicking on it twice. And I'll call this O1 string out because we love a good string out. Okay, so here we have the first clip for B camera, but we need all 3 cameras, right? So we're gonna go to, let's see, we're gonna go to A camera and we're gonna grab that, put it in, and we're gonna go all the way to C camera, right? We're gonna put that in as well. So we have C, A, and B. And our B camera is properly the right size, but our C camera and our A camera are not. So what we're gonna do, select everything, Shift Command F for set to frame size, and now everything is properly aligned. But not only are they not synced up to each other, they're also not synced up to the audio, because when we go out here, grab the audio as well, it's just, they're all mishmashed, right? And how can I tell? Well, I can just simply look at the waveform. When you're looking at the waveform of something, you can see where it doesn't quite line up. For example, I can just make all the waveforms a little bit thicker here so that we can see them. You see this little dip right here? Well, this little dip happens here, 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 and here, right? You can use these little moments to kind of see that this clip is not lined up. So I'm going to use the right and left arrow keys to see the exact moment that the slate hits. So that's on this magenta clip that's at the top, right? So the slate hit, but you can also see it in the waveform. You can see that little spike that happened. That's the slate hit, right? So you can check for the spikes in the other waveforms, and you can line it up just visually like that. Now, you don't have to have a fancy slate every time. You could just clap your hands and it does the same thing. It takes a long time, right? So let's try to do that again. Let's grab B2 over here, and let's grab an A2, stack that on top of it. Let's grab a C2, and let's grab the audio. So an easy way to just make sure that everything is perfectly aligned is select everything, right click, and click synchronize. Then make sure that your synchronize point is audio. It's going to analyze that audio waveform, and it's going to sync everything up for you so that you don't have to do it manually, which is pretty wild, if I do say so myself. This is the slate clap, and you can see it happen on each one of these layers. Another way to audio sync is by using the multicam workflow, and this is the one that Adobe recommends. It's really, really helpful to name your clips. So my clips, luckily, are named, right? We have A1, and then we have C1, and then we have B1, and then we have the audio. So because everything's named, I know that they belong together. Another way to know that they belong together is to check the duration. So I'm pressing Command and I'm selecting all of them, but mostly because I want you to take a look at the duration. Here it's 653, 628, 653. This essentially tells you that they're meant to be together, right? Because the next one's 644, 640, 645. The next one is 8 something, 8 something, 8 something, and then 2 something, 2 something, 2 something. So even if they weren't named properly, I could still find them and know that they belong together. So now that I've selected the 3 different cameras and the audio by holding down Command, I can right click and go to create multi-camera source sequence. And this is essentially the same thing as the synchronize. I'm going to give it a custom name. So I'm going to call it take 1, and audio is going to be how I synchronize. And then I'm going to enumerate cameras, meaning each camera is going to be a 1, 2, or 3 on the keyboard. And then I'm going to press OK. It creates this really cool thing called a multi-camera source sequence. And you can see it appear right here. Its logo is a little bit different than the sequence logo. It's like synced, right? This one's out of sync. So let's take a look at what a multi-camera source sequence is. If I double click it, it's blank, nothing appears. But as I move, you can start seeing all three cameras all at once, and I can actually move in between cameras. Okay, so I went ahead and did that to all of the takes. You can see here in take 1, we have the 3 cameras. Take 2, we have all 3 cameras. Of course, this one's smaller because this one's recorded in 1080 and these 2 were recorded in 4K. Then we have take 3, and then we have take 4. So say I wanted to place them on the timeline. Well, I can just drag the multi-camera source sequence onto my timeline here, and it looks like this because it's a multi-camera source sequence, and I can actually switch between cameras by pressing 1, 2, or 3 on my keyboard. Right now I'm pressing 1, 2, and 3, and it's switching. It's also nested, so I can go inside of this sequence and see the actual clips. So if I hold down Alt and just select the audio and I double click, here's what that inside looks like. And I can go ahead and these big ones, I can change their size. So I can say 50 and clip A is also 50. So now all 3 of these are at 50%. Let's actually make this one a little bit larger, maybe like 60%. There we go. And if I go back here, that's been adjusted. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. One of the best things about working with a multi-camera source sequence is that you can actually insert cuts as you are playing through, as long as you have it enabled. So right now, that button isn't here. So I'm going to add the button by going to the button editor. So I go here, plus, and I add the button that's called multi-camera record on off. And let's actually add toggle multicam view as well. I'll press OK. So if I go to multicam view, all of a sudden I can actually see all 3 cameras at the same time, and I can see the one that I'm on, 1, 2, 3. And if I press this multi-camera record toggle on off and I start playing it, as I'm pressing 1, 2, 3, those cuts will just appear. Let's first. So as we open this up, you'll see some other essentials that I grab all the time first. So we have a pair of scissors. It's super handy for a multitude of... And check it out. As I was viewing it, those cuts were coming through. There all those cuts are. If I want to change any of them, I can just select it and like press 3, for example, and that goes to 3. Press 2, for example, and that goes to 2. If I want to change where the cut is, I can use the rolling edit tool by going to N, that's N on my keyboard, and just rolling that edit left or right to change where it is on my timeline. And then later, if I want to not be looking at the multicam view the whole time, I can just select it, right click, go to multi-camera and go to flatten. And then it breaks it up into all of my original clips. But personally, I love to see my clips laid out like this. So remember before when I dragged it in and it was like this, like one nested clip? Well, instead of doing that, I'm going to deselect this button right here, which stands for Insert and Overwrite Sequences as Nests or Individual Clips. It's a mouthful, but basically I'm going to deselect it. And now when I drag in take 1, take 2, or I could do multiple takes at the same time, it all drags in as a beautiful rainbow. And that's what I'm going to work on. So I'm going to select all this, going to delete it, and I'm simply going to work on these takes right now. So you might be wondering, why are there so many audio tracks and why did you record audio separately? A lot of the time when you record audio on your camera like I'm recording right now, it sounds horrible, right? It's called scratch audio. We only use it as a reference in order to have a synchronization point. And we get a better recorder or a better microphone closer to us so that that audio could sound a lot better and a lot crisper. I'm going to mute these tracks. You never know, I might need them. I don't want to delete them right away. And I'm going to start cutting. Now, before, remember that shortcut, the Command K that slices through? Well, it doesn't just slice through one layer. It could slice through multiple layers, but see what happens if I try. So I'm going to put my playhead over here and I'm going to try to do Command K. It sliced through the orange one, but it did not slice through the blue or the magenta one. And it also didn't slice through this audio. Why? Well, because track targeting isn't turned on. Track targeting means those are the tracks that are active and available to take shortcuts. So I'm going to make sure that track targeting is on for everything. And now when I do Command K, bam, it works across the board. I'm going to delete this, ripple delete, and keep playing. Hey, my name is Valentina V, and I am a cinematographer and director based in Los Angeles. Listening through to this whole thing, it's going to take forever, right? This video is right now 24 minutes long. That takes too long. So something that I like to do is do J, K, and L. So J, K, and L will actually rewind, pause, and fast forward your video. If you press J twice, it'll rewind faster. If you press L twice, it'll fast forward faster. So let me use J, K, and L to get through this a little bit faster. And it's also not my crates of grip equipment that has stuff like extension cords, what we call stingers, and clips, and all so close. Hi, my name is Valentina V, and So I'm gonna do Q over there. Hi, my name is Valentina V, and I'm a director and cinematographer based in Los Angeles. I thought it would be fun to show you what's in my ditty bag. This is the tool bag that I bring to set every day that has all of my little essentials in it. It's not my camera case, which has my cameras, lenses, batteries, but is all of the other things that I think a lot of people don't talk about and don't think about. That was good. Now, I just did Command K, but look what happened. It only cut the top clip because Command K not only works on the tracks that are track targeted, but if you have a clip selected, it'll only work on that clip, right? So if I didn't have that clip selected and I did Command K, it would cut through every single one of these clips. But if I did have the top clip selected and I did Command K, it will only cut through what was selected. Now, two ways to counteract that. You can either do Shift Command K, but I don't like doing Shift Command K because I have one of my hands on the mouse and one on the keyboard, and it's just like too far away for my little hand to navigate. So instead of what I like to do is over here under sequence, I will deselect selection follows playhead, which means this is the playhead. That way, when the playhead moves, the top clip isn't selected. If selection follows playhead is enabled, that means it will always be selected. So I'm going to deselect selection follows playhead, and I'm going to keep editing. Command K, go forward, do a Q to cut out that gap. And in fact, I see more gaps coming up. I can cut them out right away because I'm seeing the dip, right? That's happening in here in the waveform. So I automatically know that is a gap that I have to cut out. So I can do Command K, move it forward, Q, cut that gap out. Okay, so I cut it down to under 20 minutes. I know for a fact that it's definitely not going to be longer than 5, probably at the most 10. So there's a lot of fat that I got to trim. But first, let's clean some stuff up. So let's take all of these multi-camera source sequences, put them into the sequences bin. Then let's duplicate our current sequence. So I'm going to call it first cut and open it up by double clicking. So now we're working on that one. So we save the string out for later. And let's actually generate a transcript and work off of that instead. This is a new feature in Premiere Pro. It's called text-based editing, and it is incredible. It is like magic. You just go over to Window, scroll down to Text to open the text workspace, and in the Transcript tab, you'll see it says 16 source clips have not been transcribed. All you got to do is click Transcribe. This is going to revolutionize video editing. In just a few minutes, it's going to take this 20-minute chunk and pop out a transcript. It's already done it. Here it is. And look how accurate it is. Boom, here it is in all its glory. I decided to take one that has outside pockets. Not only is it incredibly accurate, but you can also just edit. So that entire first sentence, I want it to be gone. So I highlight it. You see it highlights it here on the actual sequence. So yeah, highlight it and then press delete. boom, it deletes it. I can also see all the pauses as well, and I can delete the pauses if any of them seem too long. So here, for example. So as we open this up, you'll see some other essentials that I grab all the time first. So we have a pair of scissors. It's super handy for just delete everything before we have a pair of scissors. You can see right here, it highlighted that section, and I can just cut. Another feature is that you can edit the video and the transcript updates. So here, for example, let's do Command K to insert a cut, and I want to get rid of everything from here to that cut. So I'll press W and it gets rid of it. And look, the transcript also updated. Okay, I cut it all up. I think the last thing I'm going to do is, because I recorded the intro at the end, so I'm going to take the intro, there it is, and I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to go to the very beginning here, and I'm going to paste it. And then the intro I recorded at the beginning, I'm going to just delete it. Something that happens when you're cutting stuff up like this, especially for a long video, is that when you are done cutting up your audio, you might step on a line ever so slightly, maybe like, I don't know, you're half of a frame off, but it sounds bad, like in this instance. Having a headlamp, right? Like you just need a little bit of smoothness there. So for that, I go into effects and I'll go into audio transitions, crossfade constant power, and I'll drop a constant power transition and double click, and I'll literally make it just 2 frames wide like that. So it's the tiniest little transition, but it really helps. Listen. Is a headlamp. Having a headlamp, right? It helps transition. So I'll go ahead and select it. I'll copy it. I'll zoom out all the way. And then I will hold down Command while selecting all of the transitions, and I'll Command V. So I'll paste that short transition everywhere so that it's in there. It's everywhere. Next, what I think I'll do is I'll just make sure that everything is aligned with the colors of it. And I'll do it in this way. Instead of hiding and unhiding, hiding and unhiding, and trying to mess with the colors, what I'll do is I'll shorten this top clip a little bit so that I have the bottom clip exposed. And I will open up Lumetri Color. And I'll go ahead and also open up Comparison View over here. And what Comparison View does is on the right, it shows you what clip you have selected, which is this blue clip here. And on the left, it shows you what clip you're trying to match it to. So I will actually take this timing right here of this clip, and I'll put it in here so I can match as close as possible. So the first thing I can do is I can try to go to Color Wheels and Match and click Apply Match. And that's going to try to guesstimate the colors in this frame and apply them to this. So we'll see how that does. Actually, that did pretty good. It's a lot closer, I think. But I'll go to Basic Correction. I'll do some more correcting. So I will probably make it warmer. Yes, I'll give it a little bit more saturation. Or should I make it cooler? Maybe I'll make it cooler. A little bit more green, a little bit more saturation, a little bit brighter. Let's see. Does that look about right when it goes to my face? Let's see. Yeah, that looks pretty close, I'll say. I can go over here to my effect controls. I can toggle the Lumetri color on and off to kind of see the difference. Definitely a big difference, I would definitely say. Maybe a little bit more contrast, a little bit more brightness, and yeah, we're living. So let's do that. All I'm trying to do is match this to this, right? And let's actually see what this looks like. That looks pretty good, actually. Okay, cool. Except I would want to kind of punch in a little bit. So let's punch in like 70% and then move it down. Yeah, something like maybe even 80. And then move it down. There we go. Great. So basically what I want to do is I want to apply the motion controls of this orange clip to all of the orange clips. And I want to apply the lumetric color of this blue clip to all the blue clips. Easy to do. So again, you just go to the blue clip that has it, lumetric color, Command C for copy, right click, go to label, select label group, deselect the one that already has it, and then paste, right? Now all of them have it. Same thing for this orange one. So we're going to select the motion controls, copy, right click, label, select label group, and I can deselect it, but I also don't have to deselect it because it's not like it'll apply the motion control twice. There's only one version of a motion control. So I can paste. And now if I hide the top two layers, get out of comparison view, all of the bottom should be perfect. Great. I also want to maybe help myself a little bit, start placing some markers above here to kind of help me determine where to place my B-roll footage. So first let's go to the transcript over here in text and I can search for stuff. So I will search for multi-tool. I'll just search for the word multiply, multi-tool. So it kind of shows me, okay, where the word multi-tool is. My multi-tool right there. So I know that that's me talking about the multi-tool. I'll go ahead and press M on my keyboard to create a marker, and I'll hold down Alt and drag to give it a duration. I can even double click it, give it a name. So I'll call this multi-tool. And then later when I'm looking for, oh, where should I put my B-roll of the multi-tool? I'll know exactly where to put it. I can just continue that throughout. Make sure I have selection follows playhead disabled. M, drag. So here I'm talking about my light meter. Great. Something to note, now that I have all of these markers here, like this multi-tool marker, it's indicating that this long clip is talking about multi-tools. This arms marker is talking about arms in this clip. If I want to delete something before the markers, so say I want to delete these 3 clips. So I go ahead and ripple delete them, but you see the markers didn't move. Here, I'll do that again. I'll ripple delete, the markers stayed there, but this is what I'm talking about, the multi-tool, yet the multi-tool marker is still back there. So whenever you are working with timeline markers, my suggestion is to go up here to markers and make sure that you have ripple sequence markers selected. That way, when you are deleting, the markers ripple forward and back. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting and inserting edits right where these pauses, these natural pauses happen in my speech. And for that, I really don't have to pay attention at all. I can just go to where the pauses are and insert those cuts. What I'm trying to do is checkerboard these clips so that I can enable and disable them in a way that makes sense. So showing certain clips while hiding others. So for this one, for example, when I'm rooting around on the inside, it's probably best to see from the top. But then once I find the thing, cut to the front here. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this entire video and checkerboard it to hide and unhide, enable and disable certain clips so that it just looks like the cameras are cutting back and forth with each other. One thing that I want to mention when it comes to Color correction, right now, everything is the same pretty much, right? I match the cameras, but say I want to apply a look to every single clip here, no matter if it's enabled or disabled, I want to apply an additional sort of effect or color. What can I do? Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new bin for graphics. So I'm going to say O4 graphics because I'm nothing if not organized, and new adjustment layer in the graphics bin. I'm going to make the adjustment layer the same size and time base as my sequence. And I'm just going to drag that adjustment layer on top of everything. What's cool with an adjustment layer is whatever effects you put on the adjustment layer, they apply to everything underneath that layer. So for example, if I wanted to pull up Lumetri color and say I really want to desaturate this whole thing for some reason, I want to desaturate it, but actually let's just go to curves and let's just say I want to desaturate everything except for the orange and red tones. So I want everything but orange and red desaturated. There we go. It doesn't matter if the clip is on layer 1, 2, or 3. That color correction will be applied throughout. This works for a lot of effects as well. So if you go and poke around over here under effects, you'll see video effects. There's all sorts, distortions and perspective and stylize. So you can do a lot, like mosaic, for example, right? Whatever. You can multiply the number of blocks that you have here, and now everything underneath it is going to be that. Or you can cut this to size and then delete the rest, and then only the stuff underneath this adjustment layer will have those effects, right? Nothing else. Now that we have everything laid out, let's actually start putting our B-roll in there in a similar way to how we did it before, with a little bit of a twist. So let's go back to our project over here in footage. And remember, we colored all of our B-roll this green color. So let's do the same thing as we did before, because right now, if I pull it up, let's pull up one of these B-roll clips. See how it plays through kind of jittery, because even though it's recorded at 60 frames per second, it still plays back in real time. So I'm going to select all of these clips, right click, go to modify, interpret footage, assume frame rate 23.976. And now all of these B-roll clips will be in slow motion. So we're actually going to make a string out of just the B-roll. So we'll go to sequences, do new sequence. We'll go with whatever the first preset is, and we'll call it O3 B-roll string out. So it's just the B-roll here. We'll go into the footage folder, we'll pull it up as icons, and we will just hold our fingers on I, O, and comma, right? And we'll just start building this sequence very, very, very quickly. I, O, comma. I, O, comma. So essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a string out that is just B-roll clips, right? But not only the B-roll clips, only the best portions of each B-roll clip, because there's so much, reframing that's going on, making sure things are in focus. I only want the best bits. If you're someone who's afraid of taking on a video project because there's just so much footage and you don't know how you're ever going to be able to get through it all, I recommend doing a B-roll string out first, because it's like the easiest thing to do. So now that you've got your B-roll string out, so this is all your best B-roll, and actually I'm going to get rid of the audio that accompanies the B-roll because it's just kind of slow humming, like, right? So I'm just going to select Alt or Option, select everything, delete that, and then select everything here, go to set to frame size, make sure everything's the right size, and I'm going to pancake these sequences. So I'm gonna put the B-roll string out on top, the first cut on the bottom. There we go. So now all I have to do is drag the relevant B-roll clip, I should say the relevant portion of the B-roll clip, into the relevant section on our timeline. And guess what? All the sections are already labeled for us with these markers. So I don't even have to listen to anything. I can just go, I can see this says C47. So I'm going to go to the thumbnail where I'm showing a C47 and drag that in. There we go. So let's find where we got the B-roll of the cables. It was right here. The laser. We'll grab one of these. Put that in, and one of the readings. We'll put that in. Actually, I'll put them over here to sort of smooth over that transition. Okay, that's all of the B-roll done by pancaking the sequences together. So thus far, what we have here is we have the 3 cameras, and then on V4, we have our B-roll. But let's get into some graphics. And no, I'm not just talking about simple text like we did in the previous video. I'm talking about motion graphics, what Premiere Pro calls mogurts, and they are found in the Essential Graphics menu. So you go to Window, Essential Graphics, and whereas before we were in the Edit tab, now we're in the Browse tab, which really opens up a lot of possibilities. So by default, you have My Templates, which is the templates that are on your computer or that you used, but you can also go to the Adobe Stock Store to find other templates that you might want to use. So that's where we're going to go, because for every one of these tools, we want to have what the tool is pop up on screen as a graphic. We can make these thumbnails a little bit larger so we can see better. And you can see Premiere Pro has 44 pages of free lower thirds here. As we go side to side, we can see a little preview of what the graphic is. So we're hover scrubbing through the graphics, and honestly, this one looks pretty great. The glowing gradient. Let's see if we can find some other cool ones. I'm actually choosing this one called Clean and Bold Aesthetic Glitch Title. So let me bring it in onto V5 over here. And it lasts a little too long, so I'm gonna shorten it up. Also, I'm gonna go over here to background controls and turn down the opacity and the overlay so it's just the word. I can change the word, so I'm gonna go scissors. I like this font. Do I want to change the font? Franklin Gothic. Now let's make it something funkier. Chunk 5, that sounds like a fun font. A little bit smaller, cool. Let's make the text color the same color as, as my sweater here. Let's grab the hex value and we'll make the line color the same color. And let's move the line up. Let's move everything, the whole thing, off and down, something like that. Okay, that's looking pretty good to me. Maybe just a tad lighter. Oh, no, I like it when the text is lighter than the line. That's looking pretty good. So I set my in and out points here on the sequence. I'm gonna go to sequence, render into out, and let's play it through. Let's go. First, we have a pair of scissors. This is great for opening boxes. And I'm just gonna keep going, duplicating it. So as I drag, I hold down Alt and that duplicates it, and then changing what's written on the duplicate. So now that we have all of our titles done, we can also generate subtitles based on the transcript that we did before. So that is just super cool. So here's the transcript. It's in the text window. And if you lost it, you can find the text window under window. Make sure text is selected and you have your transcript. And all you have to do is create captions from the transcript. So you can either go here to the 3-dot menu, click create captions, or go over to the captions tab and select create captions from transcript. And it's going to ask you a bunch of your preferences. So I'm going to go to subtitle default format, subtitle style right now, none. Maximum length in characters, I'm going to keep it pretty short to make sure that the lines are single, there's no double lines, there's no gaps between frames, and the minimum duration in seconds, oh gosh, no, it should be low. So, because I talk fast, so 1.2, I feel like maybe 1.5. And I'm going to click create captions. In no time at all, it has created captions and you can see them down here. It's also added them to a separate track called the subtitle track. So all the subtitles are up here. Let's see how accurate they are. Hi, my name is Valentina V, and I am a cinematographer and director based in Los Angeles. In front of me, you have the contents of my Ditty bag. Looks pretty impressive. It looks excellent. Now, they are sort of pretty close to the titles here. You can see I kind of wish that I moved these titles a little bit higher up, but guess what? I can do that now. So I'm just going to select the first title and move it up here under effect controls in the position. I'm just going to move it up slightly. There we go. So the titles have some room. I'm going to select motion, command copy, command C, right? Then I'm going to select all of these titles and command V. And now they're all going to be just slightly higher. And if I want to adjust the subtitles, I can do that too. So by default, they are this font. But say I want them to be my brand font. I can go ahead and find my brand font. Maybe add a little bit more spacing to them so they're more legible. Now you can always add a shadow. You can even add a background. Maybe I'll add a background. Just a slight black background. A little bit of padding here. Yeah, just like that. But you can see I've added it to this one subtitle, but nothing else. I haven't added them to any other subtitles, so the other subtitles are still the same as they were. I can fix that. All I have to do is over in track style, I just have to press this button that pushes that track style to everything on the track, so to all the captions on the track, and I press OK. Now they are all that same style. Say I maybe don't like this background anymore, no problem. Let me turn the background off. Let me add that shadow back in. Maybe diffuse the shadow a little bit so it's not as distracting. Cool. And let me push it up to the track style once again. All captions on track. And now all of them have gotten rid of the box, and instead there is that drop shadow. You are doing so well. We are almost to the end, but before we export this video, we're going to need to add some music and tweak the audio, sweeten the audio a little bit. So we'll go to Window, Essential Sound, just like we did before. We'll go to Browse and we'll find a song that fits. So for this one, I'm thinking something that is definitely happy and inspiring and powerful. Then for genres, let's actually go with R&B and hip hop. And we'll put our playhead at the beginning. Let's see what works. Hi, my name is Valentina V, and I am a cinematographer. Not bad. Hi, my name is Valentina V, and I am everything with you. You ready? Let's go. Hi, my name is Valentina. Vacuum Zombie, I like it. Let's bring it over. That's definitely going to be one of our songs. And it's probably going to be too loud. Yeah, We'll fix that though. Expose things properly. Let's go with freestyle. We had a teleprompter ready to go. And drop that in as well. Now for both of these tracks, I'm gonna buy them. So I have to, let's see, reveal in project. I'm gonna purchase that one. Confirm. This one as well. Purchase. Confirm. I pay for my music, okay? I have a license. Don't come for me. And now I'm going to use the remix tool over here to make sure that they are an appropriate length. Let's see. Let's have one end around there and another one end around there. Hopefully as one sort of fades out, the other one can start. All right, now that I have my two music tracks laid out here on A5 and A6, I'm going to sweeten everything up a little bit because right now they're a little loud. Both of them. So I'm going to select all of the talking, which is here, and I'm going to tag it as dialogue here in the Essential Sound panel in the Edit tab. So tagging it as dialogue, so now the program knows that this is dialogue. And I'm going to repair it a little bit. There's a little bit of reverb in the room, so I'm going to select reduce reverb, and I'm going to add a little bit of volume to it as well. There are so many great built-in tools in the Essential Sound panel, like the noise reducer, rumble reducer, de-hum, de-ess, which is those S sounds. You can do a lot here, so definitely encourage you to poke around. As for the music, when I select it, I don't have to designate it as music because I got it from Adobe stock, so it already knows that it's music. But something that I can do is enable ducking. So if I enable ducking, it essentially, the volume of the music is going to get lower whenever I'm talking and higher whenever I'm not talking. So for example, this moment where I am blinking the flashlight at myself, I am not talking, so the music should get a little bit louder when that is happening. So I'm going to select both of these, enable ducking, and then play with the ducking controls. So I'll make it pretty sensitive, but I won't duck it too much. I'll make the fade duration pretty fast because it only happens for a short amount of time. And I'm going to generate the keyframes. And you can see on this volume line, stuff will start to appear. So you can see these keyframes that are making the volume go up and down. Let's actually duck a little bit more each time. So, and give a little bit more of a fade. So generate the keyframes, and you can see that the slope is going to go a little bit higher. And you know what? I'm going to make it less sensitive. I think it's now ducking on every breath. So I want it to be less sensitive. Generate those keyframes. So this is really helpful when you have a video where there's a good combination of talking and showing. I'm also going to lower the level of the volume of the whole thing so it doesn't overtake the talking. Okay, let's listen to that.
Little cell phone holder. You might think, you're a cinematographer, why do you need a cell phone holder? It actually helped me out literally 2 days ago.
Let's turn everything down a little bit and let's make the duck amount less. Now, before I go ahead and export this, I want to make sure that everything is rendered because then my export's going to take less time. So you can see more than half of it is rendered. It's all green, and then a lot of it is not rendered. So I'm just going to go to sequence, render into out, and render the rest of it. All right, we have the edit done. We have the graphics. We have the captions. We have the music. It's time to export. So instead of import and edit, you are going to the export tab, and exporting is so easy, I'm going to tell you. The first thing you do is you find a name for your export. So for me, what I like to do is I like to do the date. So 2023 0631 underscore, and then I will write what this is. So what's in my bag underscore 01. That is my naming convention at all times. The location is going to be the exports folder that I previously made. Save. And then the easiest thing of all, just go match source, adaptive high bitrate. That's literally all you have to do, especially if you're just putting it on YouTube. Don't worry about anything else. Format H.264 is going to play pretty much everywhere. Doesn't matter, Mac, PC, phone, internet, and yeah, there you go. This is going to be quite a hefty file when it finishes. So if you want it to be a little bit less intense, I recommend going over here to more and changing the target bit rate. So right now it's 15. If you want it to be a little bit less intense, maybe change it to 10, and you can see it has changed the file size. Over here under captions, you just want to make sure to burn captions into video. And over here in range, you can select the entire source, or you can select source in out. What source in out is if you need to only export a portion of your video, you just select I and O. And then when you go to export, you can select source in out, and it's only going to export that little bit of it. But for us, we're doing the entire source, and then you click export. You can also click send to media encoder, and that sends it to another program that can run a queue of videos, which is very helpful if you're trying to export multiple videos at the same time. Okay, so when it finishes, you should get a video exported successfully notification, and you can go ahead and check that exports folder. There it is. Double click. Should open up.
And I am a cinematographer and director based in Los Angeles.
Now, if you thought I forgot about our first video, I did not. Let's go ahead and export that as well. So I'm going to go File, Open Recent, and it was called Light Up Art. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And I think this was our latest. It was the one with music. That's right. So same thing. We can go to the export workspace, and same thing. I'm going to call it 2023-06-31 underscore light up art underscore 01. Everything looks good. I'm going to export. This should go a lot faster because the actual video was only 1 minute long. Now let's say that I wanted to make this video as a vertical video as well. It's pretty easy. So right click, reveal sequence and project. There's the sequence. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to rename this vertical. Okay, open up the vertical version. It's still horizontal, don't worry. I'm going to go into sequence settings, and instead of 1920 by 1080, I'm going to make it 1080 by 1920. All right, everything looks good. Going to press OK. And here we go. It's not framed perfectly, but I can go ahead and reframe it, starting with this end bit here, zooming in, moving it around, making sure, resizing, all that. Yes, it does take some time, but you get it. You can resize it, you can reframe it. Let's try to do the same thing here, except, oh my God, it's going to take forever. This is an almost 10-minute video. So if we want to make this, let's say, a square, it's going to take us forever. Or is it? Same thing, right click, reveal sequence and project. You notice we actually have 2 projects open right now, which is really fun. Right click, and instead of doing duplicate, I'm actually going to go to auto reframe sequence and give it a name. So first cut square, target aspect ratio square 1 by 1, and then motion tracking. This just helps the AI a little bit figure out if you have slow motion or if you have fast motion. So I'm going to say slow motion because we have almost no motion in this. And don't nest clips, create. So this is going to create that square sequence for you. It's going to reframe everything so that your face or whatever the action is in the scene is right in the middle. So you can see that it did really well on reframing the things that needed to be reframed from the B camera angle. But from the front camera angle, sometimes it didn't quite get it right, and that's okay. Sometimes it doesn't. So if you want to not use the way that auto reframe does things, you can just disable auto reframe here, right? So now your normal motion controls are back. But instead of going to every single one of these purple clips and disabling auto reframe, I'm going to do the thing I've been doing this whole time. So I'm going to right click, label, select label group, right click, remove attributes, and choose auto reframe as the thing that I'm removing from all of the C clips. That way all the ones from the front are just centered and all the ones from the side are the ones that have been reframed, as well as the B-roll footage. You can see here, if I turn off auto reframe, it actually moves it to the side. So that actually did a really solid reframe job here as well. It also reframed all the subtitles, made them work in this square environment, which is really good. So they're not running off of the page or off of the canvas. The only thing, these titles may need a little work. So I'm going to resize and reframe one of them. Gonna make it look like this. That's good. Gonna select motion and I'm going to command copy, select all of them, command paste. And now the motion should be the same throughout and everything should be in its place. Same thing here. I'm going to go to the export tab, make sure that I have the right name. So this is going to be what's in my bag 01. I'm going to go underscore square, save. And you can see here, it's the same match source adaptive high bitrate, makes it nice and square, high quality. Go ahead and press export and you're done. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I